Title: My wife laughed. You're selling your company? Good. Now you can finally afford the alimony. I had just signed the papers. An hour later, her lawyer start. The pen felt heavier than it should have. I signed my name at the bottom of the last page. The ink bled slightly, almost poetic, considering what that signature meant. Across from me, she smiled. My wife. Ex-wife now, technically. Finally, she exhaled, her laughter slicing through the tension. You're selling your company? Good. Now you can finally afford the alimony. Her lawyer chuckled too. They thought they'd won. I only smiled, a quiet, unreadable one, the kind that hides a storm. An hour later, her phone rang. She answered on speaker, her nails tapping against the table like a metronome of arrogance. Then came the scream, her lawyer's voice trembling through the speaker. He transferred the assets. The company, it's gone. He doesn't own it anymore. Her smile vanished. And I just sat there, watching her world implode, brick by brick. We'd been married for 12 years, the kind of marriage people envied from afar. Power couple, they called us. She was brilliant, charismatic, the perfect social face to my quiet ambition. But somewhere between charity galas and business trips, I began noticing her silences. Her phone always faced down. The scent of cologne that wasn't mine. Her sudden interest in late meetings. I didn't confront her, not yet. You don't storm the castle when the drawbridge is still down. You wait, watch, collect. The first clue came through an accountant, my accountant, who noticed small recurring withdrawals from our joint account, each one cleverly disguised under consultation fees. When I traced the recipient, it led to her lover, her divorce lawyer. Yes, the same man who just screamed into her phone. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat in the dark of my office. I wasn't angry. I was calculating. She wanted half my empire, so I decided to give her exactly that, half of nothing. It took 6 months. 6 months of careful moves, silent signatures, and long nights in front of my computer. I created a new holding company, overseas, hidden under layers of subsidiaries and shell corporations. My core assets, intellectual property, client contracts, all transferred discreetly. On paper, I was still the CEO of my company. In reality, I owned nothing, not legally. Then, 2 months before the divorce, I brought in a new partner, a quiet, competent woman named Lena. She took over as CEO of the new holding company, the one my wife didn't know existed. The trap was set. When the divorce proceedings began, I made sure my lawyer didn't fight too hard. It had to look authentic, the image of a tired husband conceding to a powerful wife. She gloated, of course. She always did. The day I signed those papers, she smirked like a victor standing over a fallen opponent. But in reality, she'd just inherited the corpse of an empire. When her lawyer's scream ended, there was a moment of silence. Then, chaos. "What did you do?" she hissed, her voice trembling. I leaned back in my chair, the faintest smile on my lips. "You wanted half," I said softly. "You got it." She stood up, eyes wild. "You can't do this! That's fraud!" "No," I interrupted. "Everything was done months before the divorce filing. Every transfer approved, every document signed. Legal, clean." She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I always had been. Her lawyer's voice cracked through the speaker again. "He played us. Every clause, every asset evaluation. He set this up." Her face went pale. I got up slowly, buttoning my jacket. "You spent so long planning your exit, darling, you never noticed the floor shifting beneath you." I left her sitting there, surrounded by broken pride and the echoes of her own laughter. The aftermath was predictable. Within weeks, she realized the alimony she demanded was worthless because it was tied to the company's valuation, a company now worth nearly zero. The media called it a financial collapse. I called it poetic balance. Meanwhile, Lena, now CEO, signed new contracts, relaunched operations under a new name, and quietly transferred ownership back to me through a private trust. Everything recovered. Except her. She tried to fight, of course. Lawsuits, accusations, tears, the usual weapons of desperation. But every move she made was one I had already mapped months in advance. Every lawyer she hired found themselves cornered by airtight contracts, notarized documents, and a timeline that told a perfect, untouchable story. It wasn't just revenge, it was art. One night, she showed up at my house. Rain soaking her hair, mascara smudged like bruises. "You ruined me," she said. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. The woman who once laughed beside me now stood hollow, stripped of her illusions of control. "No," I said quietly, "you ruined us. I just cleaned up the mess." She stared at me, then laughed bitterly. "You think this makes you the good guy?" I shrugged. I never claimed to be good, just fair. I closed the door. The sound of it clicking shut was the most peaceful thing I'd heard in years. It's strange how silence feels after victory. Not triumphant, not loud, just still. Sometimes I replay that day in my head, the look on her face, the phone call, the moment her world fractured. And I don't feel guilt, not even satisfaction, just clarity. Betrayal teaches you two things: how deep trust can cut, and how clean revenge can feel when it's done with precision. I sold my company, yes. At least that's what the world believes. But in truth, I sold her illusion, the dream she thought she'd stolen from me. She wanted to destroy me. Instead, she handed me the match, and I burned everything she touched. Now the empire stands again. New name, same foundation, stronger walls. And every time I walk through those glass halls, I remember her laughter. How sharp it was, how confident, how final she thought it sounded. Funny thing about laughter, it echoes, and sometimes it echoes right back at you.